For today's event, I'm pleased to welcome Sue Fassler, ESF's Director of Sustainability, who will introduce our presenter. Thanks, Sue.
Thank you so much. I am here to tell you all you're in for a treat. I have had the absolute privilege of working with Delaney for the last few years, beginning when she was a student until recently. And she's one of the most effective, productive, and human people I have ever had the chance of working with. You'll learn a lot more about the Sustainability Action Plan today, but normally a team of consultants produces something that Delaney did while she was working on other projects in the most collaborative fashion that I have ever seen. And that is the undertone that girds everything Delaney does is collaboration, care for people, and absolutely cranking out incredible work products. I'll end it just by saying Delaney's work has created the foundation for the success that our office is seeing now. And through her work with the Sustainability Action Plan, the years of success we will have really will come back to a lot of the work Delaney's done too. So I turn it over to you. It is my absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue, so much for all of those kind words. I really appreciate you saying that. And I guess I wouldn't be here today, if it wasn't for Sue's guidance, and support, because I did actually first, I think, engage with Sue and, learn about the work that ESF's Office of Sustainability does through one of these, professionals in sustainability presentations years back. So you guys are in the right place. So yeah, thank you again. My name is Delaney Demro. I am currently the program manager focusing on zero waste and reuse initiatives at ESF's Center for Sustainable Materials Management. As Sue mentioned, I previously did work with ESF's Office of Sustainability and worked on the Sustainability Action Plan, which I'll be digging into a little bit later on. So for an overview of kind of like what I'm going to cover, I'm going to give you some information about me because I always think it's nice to get to know the person that, you're learning from and hearing information from. I'll provide some information on my background in my education and my work experience, and then dig into the action planning details. So about me, I did grow up near Chicago, Illinois, which is on the northern end of Illinois. And I'm currently living in St. Louis, Missouri, which not many people know. I actually have a national park right in my home city. So what you're looking at is, the Gateway Arch National Park, which is officially the nation's smallest national park. So I always just think it's a fun little, fact to share there. And I guess another interesting, tidbit about St. Louis, like Syracuse has their salt potatoes. We are known for our toasted raviolis and gooey butter cake. So if you're ever out this way, I encourage you to try them. And of course, I had to include a picture of my cats because I think they're adorable, and who doesn't love cats? Because one, they keep me company while I'm working remotely from home, and I think they're just the best. So digging into my educational background, I did attend the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign for my undergraduate degree. I got a Bachelor of Science in Natural Resources and Environmental Sciences with a minor in Environmental Economics and Law. I did choose to, pursue that minor because I wanted to have a rounded education of, both the physical natural resource sciences as well as, like the social science pieces. Because what, a professor during my first year told me that no matter what research you do, no matter how good it is, if you can't communicate it and, make it into something that's implementable, and if it doesn't engage with, the people and the communities that are, impacted by or live in, these areas, it's not going to, have the impact as it potentially could. And so even though I wanted to have that rounded approach at the time, there weren't very many sustainability programs available. So I kind of had to make it my own. And during my time as an undergrad, I did get some research experience working with a professor here. I studied how the effects of nitrogen deposition affect the spread of a invasive species known as Japanese stiltgrass, which you can see here. And, this is from the Finger Lakes Partnership. So the species is also present in New York State. And, when it is present, it can spread into a thick carpet of grass, preventing, those native understory species from being able to thrive. And so by understanding how, the increasing levels of nitrogen in the atmosphere could potentially impact this was something that, this research lab really wanted to know. So after graduation, I did get an internship at Argonne National Laboratory, which is also located up by Chicago. For my internship, I worked with a group that was studying the phytoremediation impacts of shrub willows, which is also a bioenergy crop, and how this could be applied in agricultural fields. During this year, they were studying the impacts of it in cornfields. So how this was applied was they placed it in areas of the fields where it was difficult for the corn to grow, but also where that runoff was leading into a nearby stream. And so the purpose of the willows was not only to give the farmer additional income through a bioenergy crop, but also to reduce the environmental impacts that synthetic fertilizers in agricultural fields have on the surrounding environment. So it was kind of a win-win there. So I guess another interesting piece about finding my way in a career, before moving on to my next job, I was actually about to take a position with an environmental consulting firm where my responsibility would have been to identify dead birds in a windmill farm. And that's not very glamorous, not something that seems conventional, but because windmills and wind energy are good for the environment, but you have to look at it holistically about what the other potential environmental impacts could be. But I did not end up going through that job, as my advisor in this role. She saw my potential and actually got me an interview with a researcher in a nearby lab. And although the focus, as you'll see in just a second, was very different from what I had done before, it was, still good to apply those, research skills that I had learned along the way. And the focus for this position that I took, for about a year, was looking at the anaerobic co-digestion of food waste with municipal wastewater. So essentially sewage. But the way, that this worked was, municipalities were looking to find another solution for how to manage their food waste, and wanted to compare that to the other options like composting. Whereas with anaerobic digestion, you could, potentially produce methane, which you could see those little bags that are, taped to the top of the lids there. That's what we're used to collect and measure that. Where now I've learned in my current role that anaerobic digestion, is not always the, preferred option, where with composting, you get a nutrient-rich, byproduct to use in soils. But I just thought it was interesting to show the diversity of different projects that I had worked on. So after, working at Argonne for a year, I did end up deciding that I wanted to get my master's degree, which led me to ESF, where I got my Master's of Science in Environmental Science. And I focused on coupled natural and human systems and graduated in December of 2021. And so I did have a semi-non-conventional, master's degree experience where I did have 5 semesters rather than the anticipated 4. But, as I learned along the way that, if you need to take more time, that is okay. Employers are not going to really bat an eye at that, as, you may think when having to make that decision. So for my, master's research, I worked on the CREEK project, which stands for the Citizen Recreational Evaluation of Environmental Quality. We were looking to see how public perceptions of water quality, so what they could see and experience in streams, how that aligned with the biochemical measures of it. So we created a form for anyone to fill out. They would report how much algae was there, what color the water was, how clear it was, and whether or not they'd be willing to participate in different types of recreational activities. And once we got a response in, we'd go out to those locations, collect a water sample, and it would be analyzed for comparable metrics. And I also just like to show, one of the biggest benefits, that I personally felt out of this, experience was being able to, drive around and explore upstate New York and central New York, especially, since this did happen during the COVID-19 pandemic, being able to, really get into those natural spaces was very, very valuable to me. But as I mentioned, attending one of the professionals in sustainability sessions is what brought me to working with the Office of Sustainability, where I started as a student sustainability coordinator, where I was able to kind of shift gears a little bit and pivot away from that research focus and more into, program development. So one of those projects I worked on as a student was helping to redevelop and relaunch the EcoReps program, which was the peer-to-peer education program for undergraduate students living in the dorms. And then another project I was fortunate to work on was putting together the sustainability tour for ESF's Syracuse campus as well. And I believe Kathy's going to share the slides later. And both of these and the other resources I'm going to share later on are linked if you want to look at them. And actually, I will go back 1 second and say that if you are interested in working with the Office of Sustainability, feel free to email Sue at sustainability@esf.edu, and she can get you on our email listserv as they're sending out the announcements for new positions opening for the fall. And I'm sure she'd be able to, she'd be happy to speak to you more about that as well. But then after graduation, I was fortunate enough to be offered the position of the Sustainability Outreach and Engagement Manager, which I worked for about a year. And some of the projects I worked on in that role were, really to bring the sustainability practices to the campus. And so this included our Green Purchasing Guide, which includes a bunch of, products through ESF's contracted vendors that met the Green New York purchasing specifications to kind of take that guesswork out for campus purchasers when they want to make a sustainable purchasing decision. The next program I helped develop, and Rochelle has done an awesome job of, leading over these past few years, is the Sustainability Ambassadors Program, which engages staff at ESF to kind of be the sustainability liaison, so to speak, for their office or department. The other program is our Sustainable Event Certification, where you can earn a certified or a platinum level certified status for your event to kind of showcase, what energy efficiency or zero waste practices that you are incorporating as you're, putting events on campus. And then the last program in this outreach and engagement role was the Green Office Certification Program, which really is facilitated through the Sustainability Ambassadors. And we're hoping to, kind of make it easy for people to reduce their environmental impacts during their day-to-day operations on campus. And it's been a great program so far. So I was working, that role remotely, and, that was okay when we were still in the COVID-19 pandemic. But once everyone was returning to campus, we really needed someone on, in person. And unfortunately, at the time, I wasn't able to make the move back to New York State. And I'm so, so fortunate that we found Rochelle to kind of take the reins there. And I was able to transition roles into the sustainability planning and institutional alignment manager position. So with that role, with Sue, I was able to kind of identify those, those programs, those goals, and those practices that aligned with all of these different sustainability programs. For example, like ASHE STARS, which is the program that, our college and other universities, across the country and internationally can get certified at a different level. And ESF, I believe, is one of 11, I don't know, Sue, correct me if I'm wrong there, of the platinum certified institutions for STARS. And that's the highest ranking. So we're very proud to have been able to achieve that and maintain it this past year. Other programs that we work to implement include Bee Campus, so creating habitats for native pollinators, not just bumblebees and monarch butterflies, but also some of the lesser known native pollinator species, and make our campus more habitable for them. Another program is Nature Positive Universities, which, very similar to Bee Campus, is looking to reduce our environmental impacts on biodiversity, but focus not just on pollinators, but also on supporting other native species, as well as understanding how our operations and emissions and wastes can impact biodiversity beyond the bounds of our campus as well. And also aligning some of our coursework and practices with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So unfortunately, I did transition roles just at the beginning of this month, actually, to the Center for Sustainable Materials Management. And in this role, I'm getting ahead of myself. So taking a step back real quick, while I was, working with the Office of Sustainability, I did take on a small role of a project support specialist with the center, and helped, put together this report on the effectiveness of the New York State Mercury Thermostat Collection Act. We provided recommendations for the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for whether or not the law should be extended or sunset as it was currently being decided. And these are just some pictures here of what those old school, mercury thermostats look like. And why they're called mercury thermostats are because this little switch in here contains that little bead of mercury. And it can, be hazardous to anyone who, handles these materials. And so they wanted to get them out of people's homes and buildings and make sure that they were getting disposed of properly. So now into my current role with program manager. So I was working this, alongside the sustainability planning manager position with the office. But as I mentioned at the beginning of this month, I did transition to this role full time. And so as part of this role, one of the projects I'm working on is looking at, film plastic recycling. So when you think of those grocery store bags, but it also includes produce bags, ice bags, bread, and, things like bubble wrap. And so helping consumers and businesses recycle these materials, since they can't go in your curbside blue bin, they have to be managed separately. So we're looking at that. And for the reuse piece of my job, I am leading the community reuse grant program affiliated with the New York State Association for Reduction, Reuse, and Recycling, or NICE-R3, and hoping to, support businesses and projects across New York State implement reuse programs. And a specific reuse initiative that CSMM is working with the Syracuse University Center for Sustainable Community Solutions is the Orange County Green Grub Program, where we're going to be advising restaurants on how to implement reuse in their businesses. However, I would say one of the biggest parts of my job is our partnership program with TRUE, which stands for Total Reuse or Total Resource Use and Efficiency. And just like the LEAD program, TRUE, is a certification program for buildings, but focused specifically on zero waste. And so in this program, we are providing funding and guidance to businesses across the state to get their zero waste certification. And for this first year, we are helping Goodwill of the Finger Lakes get their headquarters, their pre-certification for TRUE. So that's kind of the first step. And same with UBS Arena, which had already submitted for their pre-certification back in the fall. And for certification, we're working with Chanel's Fifth Avenue boutique in New York City, Redish, a food container reuse and washing service provider in Brooklyn, Mason Jar, a low waste and sustainable grocery store, and Stash, which is a sustainable furniture company in Rochester. So now on to the bulk of the presentation, focusing on ESF's Sustainability Action Plan. So I'll be going into, our development and implementation of this. So the first part, in developing our Sustainability Action Plan, we had to identify goals based on, existing policies, programs, and plans, in place at ESF and beyond ESF to align ourselves with those other programs. So this includes, policies from the New York State level to the SUNY level, and then across these different areas, as you can see here. And so we wanted to make sure our plan aligned with ESF's strategic plan, as well as the Clean Energy Master Plan that was already in place as well. And so with all of this information in mind, we were able to kind of put together that first draft. But kind of getting back to the point of, you're not going to be able to make an impact if you don't engage, with the people that are going to be facilitating the implementation of this. And so that's why we led stakeholder interviews. I hosted 63 stakeholder meetings with faculty, staff, and students, across ESF, beyond just the Syracuse campus, and also those, at our regional campuses. And, in that process, we were able to engage with 91 different people. So during these interviews, we wanted to learn about what they were currently working towards, how our office might be able to assist them in achieving that, and then also gain their input on some of the goals that we had identified from those previous, plans and programs to see what else we could do to assist them to, achieve those goals as well. And based on that information, we were able to organize it into, the first draft of the plan. So our plan is organized into 5 functional categories, covering everything from academics, engagement, inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, as well as operations. And then kind of funneling that down into more specific impact areas. And then within those impact areas is where we have the meat of the plan, which are the implementable actions. And so I just wanted to show a screenshot of kind of what our plan development process looked like. it might not be pretty in its, in this form, but we had to organize all of this information in one place and kind of make it easy for us to navigate. And so, this spreadsheet was really our home base for everything, when we were putting the sustainability plan together. And so, as I mentioned, the plan has so many actions because of all of this information we had gathered. So we have over 250 actions across that wealth of impact areas because, unique to ESF, we wanted to make sure that our plan reflected, the diversity of, focus areas that we have here, but also we wanted to be a leader in sustainability and uphold, that reputation as well. But that's not where our engagement ended. So after we had the first draft ready to go, we wanted to bring it, to the entire campus community, and not just, those stakeholders that we had those one-on-one conversations with. And so thanks to Sue and Rochelle's, awesome work to get this event organized, we held the Sustainability Action Plan Social just a couple months ago, where we had each of those 200 plus actions printed up on whiteboards where people could place their votes for if it was a action that they valued, if they had any concerns about an action, as well as providing specific comments and feedback. And so as part of that, we were able to, have over 150 attendees at that event and had over 4,000 votes across those, across all of these actions. This included those that value and had concerns as well. And we're very grateful to having a student assistant that was able to put this information together for us. It's been great to see all of this kind of coming together. And also getting, over 170 comments to really inform bringing this plan to the finish line. So based on all of that feedback, we were able to update the plan, say what, the campus liked, what they didn't like, what we missed the mark on, or could improve. We took all of that into consideration and we'll be, bringing it to its final version. And once we have the final version ready to go, Sue and Rochelle are going to be bringing it to college leadership. So they are aware of, what the college wants to see and what we are planning on implementing as well. And then once that all goes to plan, I believe by the end of spring semester, the final plan is going to be published and ready to go. And so I guess looking ahead for, the plan, it's going to be implemented over these next 3 years. And so with that, our office is going to be advising stakeholders on how to implement these different actions, and, discussing with them how we can support them through that process. And each year, the office plans to put together an annual progress report, kind of show what's been done over the past year, and if any of those actions were updated as a part of that. And that concludes, I guess, my part of the presentation, but I thank you guys so much for listening, and I am excited to answer your questions. Thank you.